Who is the best value in the Giants receiving core? Which back is the smartest draft choice in Baltimore? And what rookie is the secret weapon for an NFC West team? Plus, multi-main event league champ Rob Gallucci hangs out with us tonight to talk about his near-annual success in the contest in the FFPC, how they settle team decision arguments with his co-owner Ryan Gockin, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Thinking of a master plan, 'cause ain't nothing but sweat inside my hands. So I dig into my pocket, all my money spent. So I get deeper, but still coming up with lint. So I start my mission, leave my residence, thinking how could I get some dead presidents. I need money. I used to be a stick-up kid, so I think of all the devious things I did. I used to roll up, this is a hole up. Ain't nothing funny, stop smiling. You still don't nothing move but the money. But now I learn that.
Broadcast live and heard around the world. You are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
I don't like to dream about getting paid, so I dig into the books of the rhymes that I made.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Gerzakin addicts. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is indeed the patron saint of fantasy football. He is the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show, what's going on in the Carolina backfield, and how is it affecting football guys' drafts? What receiver could be in for another late career breakout? And Rob Gallucci will be joining us shortly to discuss his main event strategy in the FFPC this year, what fourth-round receivers he's targeting, and much more. Shout out to the chat room right now. Feel free to post any questions you might have in there. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can do so at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman. Dave is at David Gerzak. You can post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFF Hour. If you want to chime in and give us a call, it's 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVER. You can also email the show at the inbox, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now's the time to send them. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, tweets, emails later on in the fantasy feedback segment. Rob, our our mutual friend and producer, is working hard tonight, as well as Bryce Masters, our audio engineer. So definitely send them through. We're going to do a little bit of a different format tonight because, Dave, we are going to be internationally syndicated as part of the Fantasy Sports Radio Network starting this week. That's exciting.
It's very exciting that they syndicated us and then they dragged along the Fantasy Network. We said you're going to tag those guys along too.
Yeah. Bring them along for the ride is basically what we said.
They reached out to us personally.
Yeah.
We said we agreed to the deal.
We deflected the credit as we normally do.
Right, exactly.
Say, hey, listen, let these hangers-on hang on with us.
Yeah, talk to our guys, talk to our boys in New York about it.
So International Terrestrial Radio will be the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour each week going forward. I don't have a list of stations yet. But when they come in, I will let you know.
They usually start with the W or a K.
W or K. K-Rock, where disco never died, and the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour also lives. So, yeah, very exciting. With that, we've been rambling here. We actually have to get to our first break already. I promise you.
This is how the radio works.
We will have longer audio. This is the HSFF Hour right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. The HSFF Hour is live on your radio whatever they call it, iPods, iPhones, wherever you're listening to.
Yeah, those fancy devices. Bulky, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak, High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Rob Gallucci right around the corner here, multi-league FFPC main event winner.
So you were a 20-some time college.
21.
21-time award-winning.
You don't have to insert college in there.
Yeah, well, broadcaster.
Broadcast award winner.
It was a college broadcaster.
Well, but you don't have to say that.
University of Wisconsin at Oshkosh.
Brevity, Dave.
So the call letters I always thought were the funniest because it's WRST, and it's an abbreviation for worst.
Yeah, and there's actually
so that's why it's the worst radio station.
There's actually a watch line now, I believe, called Wrist, but they spell it WRST.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So just basically,
so Wrist radio.
The heat that was on that Eric Balkman brought to his college radio station lives on.
Nice.
I want to remind everybody to get your discounted room at Planet Hollywood right now if you plan on playing in any of the live events out in Las Vegas. Our Football Guys Players Championship is off and running. We do have Dynasty startups, including Dynasty Draft Experts formats on $35 and $250 double-up formats at myffpc.com. Check them out. It is a lot of fun that we have going on with the FFPC right now. As always, I mean, we always have a lot of fun there. Let's have some more fun with our guest. I want to bring him in right now.
Already?
Yes, already. We are bringing him in.
I can't even adjust to this new show.
I know. It's going to be wild, but I think you will make do. He has played with his best friend since college for fantasy football. They actually joined forces in the inaugural year of the WCOF and then also the inaugural year with the FFPC in 2008. They've never missed their main event league playoffs in the main event, in that format. They have two league titles, more than $20,000 thanks to their performances. Please welcome into the show Rob Gallucci. Rob, thanks so much for coming on the show. Good evening to you, sir.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We are great.
We're doing well. I want to bring this up because I teased this throughout the week, and so did Rob on social media and what have you, that we would have two guests on tonight, both Rob and Rob's co-manager, Ryan Gockin. I got an email from Ryan, I don't know, less than an hour ago, or right around there, saying that he was still at work doing surgery. So, Rob, your co-manager is so dedicated to his craft that he, put the scalpel down.
Took off the gloves.
Yeah, took off the gloves, picked up his phone, sent me an email. I got to tell you,
Then walked up.
Yeah, scrubbed up. Make sure you tell Ryan. I certainly appreciate interrupting some guy's brain surgery or whatever he was doing. I certainly appreciate it. What kind of surgeon is he?
He actually, if I answer this correctly, does defibrillators. He works for St. Jude's, so he's in the pharmaceutical world, and that's what he specializes in. So, unfortunately, he's got medical devices, and he's got some surgeries that he got tied up tonight that he's busy in the Midwest.
Well, at least he didn't say he does, vasectomies on dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
He could have been a vet for all we know.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, frankly,
I couldn't even do that.
I feel a little guilty about asking such a superhero on the show tonight, saving people's lives. That's just great. Rob, what can you tell us about what you do for a living?
I actually am a commercial real estate broker in Manhattan, New York. So I represent tenants and land. Yeah, a little bit different.
That's a real job, Balky. Not like this stupid doctor stuff.
Manhattan, New York. You
should get on that millionaire.
$1 million listing.
Yeah, do you watch $1 Million Listing in New York? Do you hate those guys? You must hate those guys.
It's a little different. I'm commercial, they're residential, but it's definitely a little bit of a different vibe. That's
true. Commercial, you actually deal with real business people.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, Dave, people speak ill of Manhattan, saying what a toilet it is. I really think that place has the potential to turn around. So
real estate might be okay.
Yeah, I think the things I'm hearing about Manhattan, I think there might be something there. Anyway, let's get into fantasy.
All right. I finally have a fantasy question. So many players, when they get into high stakes, they have a certain learning curve when it comes to drafting this format. They played in their local leagues for years, dominated people. So how did you and Ryan come into the FFPC and have so much success nearly immediately?
It's kind of, when you have a partnership, it's one of these things where you got to kind of collaborate together. But we kind of, do a bunch of mock drafts to kind of see where players are getting drafted, and then kind of we let the draft come to us, with who's really the best available player. But, I mean, again, the success has always predominantly been in the later rounds as well as in the free agency. That's kind of where we've been able to take advantage if you have bad luck with, beginning first-round players. So that's really where we've kind of done well. And we, study it up and, take chances on who we believe are going to be, studs later on. So that's kind of what we do.
It's all about getting your guys and believing in those guys, Dave.
It sure is.
It's a two-part thing. You get them, you believe in them, things happen. So very cool. Rob, how much when you and Ryan are getting together and prepping for your main event drafts, how much do you guys take into account new offensive systems being installed with teams and new offensive coordinators, running offenses with NFL teams? When it comes to moving up players up and down your board, how much does that affect how you rank guys?
We definitely take that into account. it's definitely something we look at, and then we look and see what happens during the training camps as well as in the preseason games, and then see how that takes effect. What's the synergy, and how the players act with their coaches and whatnot. But that's usually what we're doing.
So when you're just drafting your team and you're trying to win your own little 12-team league, rinky-dink league, right? Is that a lot different the way you're going to draft your team versus are you taking bigger chances when you're trying to win the overall $250,000 prize, or do you kind of draft it in a similar fashion?
It's really similar fashion. I mean, you're playing to win the whole thing when you're going in the main event, which we've always done, and we've always typically placed well. Unfortunately, it's always seemed to be just in the rounds, weeks, call it in our league, 14 through after 13, call it, 14 through 15, where, it's just the luck of the draw. At that point, you're obviously playing teams that are the same lineups as you, and it's just a matter of making the right decisions on who you go with. But normally, we're just picking the best players who we think are going to win us get us to the next level, and you have to have confidence riding them the whole way through.
I'm curious when you're on the clock in drafting in the main event, and it comes down to, two guys, let's say a running back. Well, let's use Frank Gore because he's a guy that we always kid on this show that, you're not going to get 20 points in any given week. You're not going to get 5 points in any given week. You're going to get 12 points every week.
It's more like you're not going to get 15 and you're not going to get 10.
Well, yeah, exactly. You could pare it down even that closer. But when you look at a guy like Frank Gore, who is Mr. Steady Eddie, who's not going to have that explosive, week 14, 15, 16 championship sprint that a lot of teams need in order to get that $250K. When you're deciding between a player like him and then maybe a guy like a pass like a Danny Woodhead type guy or Bilal Powell, who aren't going to be the focal point of their specific NFL team's offenses, but in any given week, I mean, those guys can catch 12 passes for 100 yards, maybe a touchdown or two, get 50, 60 yards on the ground. When you're deciding between the steady guy and the guy whose performance varies wildly, which guy are you guys more likely going to go with?
We're definitely going with the guy, and again, Ryan obviously would probably like to be on this call for this, but I would say to you that we're pretty much going for the guy that we believe has more upside. We're not going with the conservative at that point in the draft. We're going with the guy that we think is going to break out and do something for us, because we've already at that point hopefully have drafted who we believe to be our, in our starting rotation. Now we're looking for that flex play. So I would say we're definitely going for like more of that Woodhead or someone who's going to be the explosive, because that's the difference of getting you to the next level or beating your next opponent, in the playoffs.
So are you guys both Giants fans or Jets fans, or are you guys split? Giants fans?
Well, you have to understand, Ryan, actually, I went to school in the Midwest, so I actually went to Nebraska. So Ryan is definitely more of a Midwest, like a Kansas City guy. I'm in the New York area, so, unfortunately, fantasy, I could say, is kind of disrupted which team I truly follow heart to heart, because I often follow the fantasy vibe. So I actually am a Jets fan more than a Giant, but I will 100% root for the Giants if they're not playing the Jets. But the Jets are just miserable at this point, so it doesn't make a difference at this point.
So I'll ask you a Jets question then. So will they have a quarterback this year, and if so, who will it be?
Say that again. For the quarterback, who would I want?
Well, I mean, who do you think they're actually going to have in there other than you or your partner? I mean, it's pretty rough, right? So I mean, are they actually going to have? What do you think they're going to actually do?
Which team? Which team are you talking about? For the Jets?
The Jets. Yeah. What are the Jets going to do at quarterback? We know Eli's over on the Giants.
I think they're going to. I personally think they're going to probably go with the rookie. I think they're going to go with Hackenberg. It's just a matter of time. I mean, we all know what Josh McCown can do. But I personally think they're probably going to go with the rookie because they have nothing to lose at this point. And they're probably, as you can see with what they're doing in this offseason with dismantling this team, they're playing not really to win, even though they're saying they are. But that's what I think they're going to end up doing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a rookie.
No, go ahead and finish your thought, Rob.
No, so I was just saying, I just think they're going to end up going with probably, trying these rookies out, whether it's Bryce Petty or Hackenberg. I think they'll give McCown the start, but eventually I think they're going to give these other guys the nod.
And then they'll draft one of the top 4 picks next year.
Yeah, more. I want to get into more on that. We're up against the break, so we're going to talk more about that, and we're going to get into some Quincy Enunwa talk. You're listening to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. I am Eric Balkman. He is the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak, and we are talking with Rob Gallucci. He of a part of a multi-league FFPC main event title-winning franchise, won more than $20,000 playing in this event. And we talked, Rob, a little bit before the break, and I think this is an interesting segue, how this parallels to where you went to college. And I don't know how much you followed since you graduated. I don't know how much you followed Nebraska football, but given that we talked Jets a little bit before the break and the quarterback situation there, what do you think of Quincy Enunwa, a guy who was pretty good at Nebraska, but again, not a big ballyhooed pedigreed draft pick, and now he's going to be the number 1 receiver. We think he's going to be the number 1 receiver for the Jets this year. I'm just looking at ADP for Enunwa here, and he's consistently been going, right around the 8th, 9th round. He's creeping up a little bit more right now. What are your thoughts on Enunwa at that spot in the main event draft this year?
I like him. I definitely like him. Obviously, he's a Nebraska guy, so I always root for Nebraska players. But I think he definitely has a good chance. I mean, he's not a true number 1. I think he was better when you had Eric Decker there. But, hopefully, I think he's going to get peppered with a lot of targets. And as long as he holds the ball in, you'll be happy to have him as a wide receiver number 3. That really is probably the number 1 option on the Jets' offense. And they're going to be probably playing from behind most of the season.
Yeah, they definitely are. And actually, I was wrong. Quincy Enunwa falling to the early 11th round, Dave. That is some meaty draft value right there. I think, you get the discount because the quarterback plays assumed to be so terrible. But even with bad quarterback play, you're getting 3,000 yards passing. I don't care who's throwing the ball. And there is a chance, if Hackenberg is announced as a starter, that ADP could drop even more. It could, actually. That's which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Exactly.
Rob, let's talk about team construction here for a little bit. Before you and Ryan draft the team, before you're going into your draft in the main event, do you have a preferred, quote unquote blueprint? Is there a certain, rubric you like to stick to like, okay, we want to have this many running backs at this point. We want to have this many receivers, halfway through the draft. We want to finish the draft with this many tight ends. Or is there anything that you ever, hold to like that? Or are you simply, ignoring that to a certain extent, but just going with best player available?
Normally going with best player available. And then I would say that, I think one of the positions that seems to be falling further and further away is the quarterback position. So if you can continue to load up on the running backs and the wide receivers, obviously being in a point per reception league in FFPC, it takes there's a lot of value in who's catching balls. But again, I would say to you that it really, we kind of let the draft come to us and really try to take the best available player with who we think is going to be, the next rising star.
So we're staying in New York. We're going to switch over to the Giants here. Let's talk about Brandon Marshall. According to this ESPN blog article, that he's using FaceTime to study with Eli Manning. So
in lieu of real FaceTime.
Exactly.
He's the number 2 option in the offense behind Odell Beckham, obviously. Got Eli Manning thrown to him. He's going in about the 608. That's the ADP that we have on him.
Yep.
What do you think? Would you pull the trigger on Brandon Marshall at that spot?
I looked at that. I definitely saw that he was there. There's actually 3 guys that I wrote down specifically about because I knew you guys were going to ask me this question. And I wanted to tell you that, in that offense, you just don't know who's going to be the go-to because you have Beckham and you have what's his name from Oklahoma? Shepard.
Yep. Did we lose Rob? We might have lost Rob. Okay, let's see if we can get him back. Rob, are you there? Is this the technical difficulties? Yeah, this is the technical difficulties aspect. All right. He told me in radio that if you ever have a problem, no matter what, you're not supposed to say this on the air. I'm letting you all in on this. Okay. If you have problems, if you peed your pants, you're supposed to say we're having technical difficulties and go change your pants. Right. Whatever you do, it's technical difficulties. Even if it's not technical.
But it is
technical difficulty.
But it is at some point a difficulty. You have to say technical
so
difficulty. But you're not supposed to.
This is Verizon's fault, probably.
But you're not supposed to say this on the air because can
you break the fourth wall in radio? There's no wall. It's like you tell them something. You're not talking to a TV.
I love bringing people behind the curtain as much as
microphone.
Okay. I love people bringing behind the curtain as much as anyone. But this you're giving away trade secrets. I believe we have Rob back now.
Look, they ended it.
Rob, are you with us? We still don't have Rob. Maybe he's going through a tunnel or something. Rob? I don't know.
They do have tunnels, lots of them.
They do have tunnels. No, but again, you're not supposed to let anybody know about this. Before we and I assume we'll get Rob back here shortly, but before we let him answer this question, your thought on Brandon Marshall. Do you like him at the 608?
I actually do like Brandon Marshall at the 608. I didn't think Shepard was all that great. Ingram's not going to get that many catches this year.
Right.
And Beckham, I think Beckham had been over-targeted because he was really like the only game in town. So
okay.
Marshall's I think he's still good enough to command the ball to some extent, especially you're trying to just move the chains. That's where Marshall's going to be.
He is successful there. Rob, we have you back now. What say you about Marshall and the Giants pass catchers?
Yeah, sorry guys, I apologize. I'm on a landline now. What I was saying was that I like him at that average draft position spot, but there are some other number one receivers that are still available. So I was saying that I actually really like from San Francisco Pierre Garçon, as well as I still like Benjamin that I had from last year. Again, this is something that I'll talk to my partner about. But if you really look at what Brian Hoyer had done when he was on the Houston Texans, from a regular standpoint, you don't like Brian Hoyer, but from a fantasy standpoint, when I had DeAndre Hopkins, he peppered that guy with so many targets that I had 100 some odd receptions that year. So I feel like you have someone like that where Pierre Garçon has the opportunity to catch a lot of balls. I just think I would probably take the chance at that position to maybe take someone like that. Not to avoid the question, I still think that Brandon Marshall is definitely, it's the value at that position. It's just a matter of do you want to take a chance with a potential number one receiver versus someone who's going to be splitting targets, and potentially could have good games and then potentially have mediocre games.
All about getting that number one pass catcher. Rob Gallucci is our guest tonight here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, has won multiple FFPC main event titles, and he joins us to talk about how he's been able to win more than $20,000 in the FFPC. Rob, we're hearing some stuff come out of Carolina. I don't know if it's coach speak. I don't know if we need to read between the lines here. But in regards to Jonathan Stewart's role, maybe not changing despite the top 10 pick of Christian McCaffrey. What are your thoughts on how the touches in that backfield are going to shake out?
I personally believe that it's going to change. I've tried to give Jonathan Stewart the benefit of the doubt. I actually really liked Cameron Artis-Payne, who I thought coming out of Auburn was going to be taking the torch and eventually taking it from him, and he wasn't able to do it. I just think that time in and time out, Christian McCaffrey just seems like just a dynamic player, and it's just a matter of time before he will become, sometime in the season, it will pay dividends to somebody who drafts that guy.
Dave, we haven't talked about this specific piece of news that came out that, Carolina basically saying, look, Stewart's still going to be a big part of our offense, even though they sunk this top 10 pick into McCaffrey. I know you were big on McCaffrey for Dynasty. As far as redraft goes, where you're looking at getting Christian McCaffrey in FFPC drafts right now at the 402, is that a spot where you'd be looking at grabbing him? If you had that back end pick in the first round, would you be taking McCaffrey at the early fourth?
Bulk, you're asking me that question?
I am asking you that question.
I am taking Christian McCaffrey at the 402 happily, and I'm glad I'm not too worried about Jonathan Stewart at all, actually. I feel like McCaffrey's getting his points through the air. They keep talking about Cam Newton not taking all these risks, and I think the dump-off passes, he's going to learn how to throw a few dump-off passes, maybe 80 or 90 balls. I think McCaffrey is going to be an amazing player this year.
Yeah, he definitely, we saw it. I mean, we saw the tape, what he did on film. We saw what he did at the Combine. Looks very much the part of an athletic freak. So we'll see how that Carolina situation shakes out. It'll be interesting to see what kind of value Stewart still holds in that offense this year.
So, Rob, what do you make of Jeremy Maclin this year? I mean, you got a lot of receiving targets all of a sudden coming into Baltimore. Is he your favorite value over there? He's going at the 8-11 in FFPC drafts right now.
I definitely like Macklin. His value, it's kind of all over the place just due to how many weapons. I still think Bashard Perriman, and some of these other guys, Danny Woodhead's now there. It's going to be spreading around. Dennis Pita injury obviously helps Macklin, but I like him. I just don't know if he's, again, wherever he's being drafted, we're going to do more due diligence, and he's definitely going to be probably like a 6th or 7th wide receiver, that we would probably be looking at that point to start every other, depending on what matchups we have in certain weeks.
Yeah, Macklin is going right at the end of the 8th round right now. And I will say that if you do take him as, like, say, your 6th receiver in the 8th or maybe early 9th round, you probably loaded up on receivers early, Rob.
You have nobody else.
Yeah, I wouldn't say nobody else. But, Rob, do you find you and Ryan doing, loading up on receivers early? We talked about zero RB was all the rage last year. How do you guys normally like to draft those receivers? Are you pounding a lot early?
I would say later on. We're definitely more of a run-heavy. Just, according to how FFPC works, I just think that running backs are hard to come by. And, it's always that flex position that you're always looking to try to get the most points as possible. So I would say to you that receivers are definitely more in mid-rounds because you could definitely find some talent that you weren't expecting in the later rounds. And usually Ryan does the drafting for us in the beginning, and I'm more of the guy who's picking some sleepers or, what you would call it in the later rounds.
Like the kickers.
Exactly.
It's interesting, I brought this up several times last year, Dave. I would try to get maybe one running back early or maybe no running backs, and then try to get my receivers. And then I would always have 6 or 7 great receivers because I was pretty good at plucking them in the middle rounds. Couldn't get a running back till like. Yeah. No, I mean, like, I couldn't. No, I mean, but I would draft 1 or 2, and they just, I couldn't.
And then, like, you draft the other guys in there.
And just I had 8 starting. I had 8 starting receivers and no starting running back. Yeah. Well, we have more balance on this show coming up. This is the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. I'm Eric Balkman. He's Dave Gerzak. We are talking to Rob Gallucci tonight on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Rob has won more than $20,000 playing in the FFPC, 2 FFPC main event league titles to his name. We do have, when we announced, Rob, that you were coming on, we did get a couple of emails from listeners that wanted to pick your brain. I'm going to lead off with the first one tonight. Steve in Westerville, Ohio, he writes, who do you like better this year, the number 1 on a decent offense in Golden Tate or the number 2 on an elite offense in Davante Adams? Good luck this year in the main. That is Steve in Westerville, Ohio. And interestingly enough, these guys are both going right at the same spot in football guys drafts right now. Golden Tate going at the 407, Davante Adams going at the 408. Rob, you alluded to it before. You like getting those number 1 receivers on your team. Well, Tate is that with Detroit. Adams still behind Jordy. Which of these guys would you rather have this year?
That's tough. That's a tough question. I really like Davante Adams. I think Jordy Nelson's getting older, but now that Anquan Bolden has left Detroit, I probably would go, and the offense for Detroit's been clicking, I probably would go with Golden Tate this year if we had a pick. But again, I'll leave that up to me and my partner to decide, but that's what I would say, at least, Golden Tate.
I don't know if you know this. Dave, I know you don't. Rob, you probably don't. Anquan Bolden last year, 22 red zone targets on the roster, led Detroit last year, and he's gone. Seemingly, we don't think they're going to be re-signing, Anquan Bolden. Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to ask Rob. So, Rob, do you think that losing Bolden benefits Eric Ebron more because he's that big?
That's who I like as a sleeper. Yeah, I like Eric Ebron a lot. I think he's going to have a very good. Yeah.
I think so too. Actually, I'm really coming around on Ebron, Balky.
Well, that would be a first. I was going to say, like, even like when he came out as a rookie, you weren't on him. Like, you never.
Not.
Yeah, I don't think.
His hands suck. He's not good at catching the ball.
Okay, well, he's going to be good at that this year?
No, He'll still suck at it. He'll catch 94% of the passes.
I don't want to
drop 6%.
Okay, that's fine. I don't want to get into the whole Ebron discussion right now because I think we have an email coming up later on in the second hour show, and we'll definitely talk ad nauseum about him then. Another email for you, Rob. This is from John in Miami, Florida. How do you guys settle an argument when you can't agree on who to draft, who to start, who to bid on, who to drop, etc.? Thanks for the email, John. Also, thanks for the email, Steve in Westerville. So this is interesting, Rob, and this is one of the things that I always find so fascinating about co-ownership when it comes to people managing these high-level, when you're paying $1,500, $2,000 for a team, and you guys only can make one pick per round, and you can only spend $1,000 on blind bidding, and you have to decide who to drop with all these bids. And clearly you guys know what you're doing, but I can't believe playing as long as you have together that you guys have never had a pretty strong disagreement about a certain player. How do you guys break the ties? How do you guys decide which way you're going when you guys just can't find a common ground?
I'm probably more of the reason with regards to the free agent money. It's more that I would say Ryan likes to go after it and put a good amount of money on, but then I try to reason with him with regards to it's a long season. Depending on where we are, we try to make sure we have more free agent money than our other 11 opponents. So it's just kind of like we talk it through and we really look at the waiver wire, and then we kind of make a collective decision. Even though we might have two things, we definitely put money probably on both of what our opinions are, but ultimately, we'll probably sacrifice a little bit more on one or the other, and it might just depend on the week. If someone gives the other person more reasons why it makes more sense, then we'll go in that direction. But usually we balance each other out. That's what's made us successful in the past, and that's what I would say we're continuing to do.
Have you guys ever had a decision where you had to make, say in like not necessarily the first round because you kind of know where you're picking in the FFPC main event, but a second round or a third round, like a big time core, a piece of your core in your main event teams. Have you guys ever had a disagreement like at the draft table when the clock is counting down and you're like, no, we're taking Allen Robinson here, and he's like, no, I will walk away from this table if we do not take DeAndre Hopkins. Have you ever had one of those moments where you can't decide and you don't have the time to have a discussion?
We don't, because what usually happens if the person's adamant about taking it, then it just comes down to the next round. Then the other person gets to pick who they want. It just comes as simple as that. If someone's as adamant as that, then usually the following round the other person gets to pick honestly who they want, and then we go from there.
And see, that's just being personally agreeable. I mean, if if the personalities match, it's almost like it's getting a little weird. I'm not Dr. Phil here, but it's a little bit like a marriage. Like if you're getting along with somebody or not, it's going to work. If you don't, it's just you're going to know pretty quickly whether or not it's going to work. By about the sixth round, if you're in a new relationship, and we've seen that happen, Balky, at high stakes drafts, where people who was it? I don't want to call it up. It was a guy and a girl. Not that it's because it's a guy and a girl, but they were in a draft masters league, and like one of those two players got up and was like, ranting and raving about how terrible of a decision it was to be partners with this other person. Yeah, no, it happens, and usually these types of relationships they sort of dissolve prior to actually being at the draft table. Sometimes they don't, and these are all situations that you work yourself through. I'm curious, Rob, how you and Ryan, best friends since college. How did you guys come to sort of like take ownership of these high-stakes teams? Like, what was it about your relationship when it came to fantasy football that made you guys a good pair, that you knew you could win a lot of money doing this?
It was just kind of, we both do a good amount of homework and studying it because we love football as much as we do, and going to the University of Nebraska, and I guess at the time when we went to school, those guys won a bunch of national championships for the Big Red, and we saw a bunch of those guys going to the NFL and really just kind of followed it. And then in our hearts, we believe we know a lot more than what the experts say. It's really what it comes down to. We watch it. We think that certain players are going to be better than what people are predicting, and we kind of just go with our gut. And we, again, it kind of brings us together because he's in the Midwest, I'm in the East Coast, and that's one of the reasons why we like just doing it together. And it's really what I would say to you. It's the best way I can answer it.
Keeps that friendship alive and fresh, Dave, after all these years. Yeah, I like it. That's a good answer. Dave, go ahead with our final question here for Rob.
one of our favorites. All right, we're looking for an early round bust this year in FFPC leagues. This is redraft, of course. In a late round sleeper, you were trying to nab in as many drafts as you can.
The bust.
Trick question, I know.
Yeah, the busts aren't easy. I'll start with the sleeper because I think the sleeper is kind of probably the easier answer for me. And then I'll go to my bust because I kind of wrote this down what I was thinking it would be. I really happened to, like last year, I happened to pick up, I suffered the bug of Keenan Allen getting hurt. So I actually happened to take this Terrell Williams, who I think is just going to be a stud. He seems to be getting better and better. I know that they just recently drafted Mike Williams, but I'm not always the biggest believer in rookie receivers taking form. I think Phillip Rivers still has some buzz in him. So I really like Terrell Williams. I think that guy is going to be all right. As far as a bust, I mean, what do you consider early round bust? Like first round getting hurt, or second round? I mean, it's kind of tough.
Let's say like anything in like the first 3 or 4 rounds. So like basically any top 50 player that's being drafted right now that you don't understand why he's going that high, and you can't see him returning that type of draft value.
I could be completely wrong on this, but unfortunately in my office I've had people laugh at me. But I, for some reason, do not believe Brandon Cooks is going to be that great. I'm a New Orleans Saints fan, but I just don't. They have so many weapons in New England. I just feel that they're going to spread that ball around, that I think he definitely can get on top. But for somebody thinking that he's going to do more than 80 catches or, more than 1,200 yards or double-digit touchdowns, I just think is kind of and I've seen him really shoot up the boards in some of the drafts I've had. I mean, I'd rather have Brady, than I'd rather have Brandon Cooks. So, I mean, that's who I probably would say as a receiver that I've seen kind of flying up the boards this year. So.
It's interesting. I've always been a Cooks. I love Brandon Cooks. He's a great player. But I can see, when you try and look at the other side of it, when you say, Brandon Cooks, what can you see happening? Like I could see a game where the Patriots score 45 points, Brady throws for 420 yards, and Cooks goes 3 for 35.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Where, all of a sudden there's a couple, catches out of the backfield. Gronk has a massive game. Some sucky wide receiver from wherever, Valdosta State, who you never even knew was on the roster, all of a sudden had 100 yards. I can totally see that happening. I think that's possible. I still like Cooks. I'm going to respectfully disagree overall, but I like that.
I like him. I just think that you have Malcolm Mitchell, you have Edelman still, you have James White with what he did in the Super Bowl. Rex Burkhead is a former Husker. I don't know. I just think they have so many weapons that it's just kind of tough. So we'll see.
Well, here's what I derive from this. All 3 of us like Brandon Cooks this year, and we think like him as a player. But if we're having this conversation in December, Brandon Cooks is coming off a year where he had 60 catches for 850 yards and 3 touchdowns. None of us 3 is going to be surprised by that. Well, whatever, 6. Whatever. I'm just saying, something like that.
Hey, by the way, I took Tyrell Williams at the 1302 in the Scott Fishbowl.
You guys are at the 1302 already?
Yes, you guys are just
farting
around in the 5th round in your draft.
We'll get it.
We're in the 13th round of our draft.
We'll talk about the SFB in a little bit, but I do want to thank Rob for coming on tonight. This was a pleasure. Rob, I want to wish you best of luck in the main event, although it appears that you don't need it. You're going to get to your league playoffs. You've got a good shot of winning it. Maybe this is the year that you guys win the big one. I certainly appreciate you coming on the show tonight, man. Thanks so much.
We appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Rob Gallucci. Yeah, I did. It's my fault.
Actually, was that Bryce? Thanks, Bryce.
Well, no, I had the button because Bryce is in the can. Technical difficulties, as it were.
That's funny.
So listen, great stuff from Rob Gallucci. We're gonna sort of digest that. I want to talk more about the Scott Fish Bowl because that kicked off this week. And we'll sort of recap everything as
we're all gonna go to the can now.
Well, I am not. You can if you want. But listen, we're going to do this much more. We're going to take a quick break right now. I'm Eric Balkman. He's Dave Gerzak. This is the HSFF Hour right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak, the HSFF Hour rolls on here on blogtalkradio.com/HSFF. If you're listening to us there, or if you're listening to us on Fantasy Sports Radio Network, or any of the billions of radio stations that you're hearing us on now.
A myriad.
You can always catch us live Friday at 10/9 Central on blogtalkradio.com/HSFF. Follow our social media accounts for the link to that. So very exciting stuff. Great interview from Rob Gallucci we had right before the break. Won a lot of money playing in the FFPC main event. Won some titles there. Takeaway that we get from his sleeper and his bust. You like Tyrell Williams. Took him in the 13th round. Again, let's not bring in rounds into this with the Scott Fishbowl because there's some crazy scoring and crazy lineups. And
that's putting it mildly. It's whack. Sorry, Scott.
Okay, well, we don't need to get into that. But Tyrell Williams is a guy that he likes. The tide is really turning on the Williams receivers. And I was talking with a high-stakes player the other night about Mike Williams, and I said, well, listen, if you talk to Dave Gerzak about it, he's going to not stop talking to you about how much he dislikes Mike Williams.
I will kick Mike Williams to the curb.
You have, both in Dynasty and Redraft.
Absolutely. Why not?
Yes.
I can barely stand up for it.
And I was going to look this up. I will right now. Tyrell Williams going at the 10-10 in drafts. Now, he is shooting up, my friend, because a month and a half ago, he was in the 13th round pretty consistently, going in the 10th round right now. And Big Mike Williams, the rookie.
I like that, Big Mike Williams.
Yeah, falling all the way to the 1602 right now.
I mean, look, it's so clear. It says Mike Williams' role in year one uncertain. He's been challenged by the coaching staff to get brought up to speed. I can guarantee you, if he had, I would put his over/under on catches this year at about 28. Mike Williams.
Wow. I don't. 28 seems a little.
When's he going to see the field? Is he going to be a slot guy? No. Travis Benjamin, right?
That would make sense. He could also go on the outside. Benjamin could.
Yeah, so Keenan Allen.
There's so many weapons there.
Keenan Allen. His main hope is if Keenan Allen gets hurt, like he always does. He has a propensity to do that. But if Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, and Travis Benjamin are healthy, he's not getting any passes. He's not catching anything. He's a colossal waste of your time to take and redraft.
Yeah. Would you like to put 5 on Mike Williams catches?
Sure. You know what? I'll take under 28 for $5.
Now hold on. I was actually going to give you a little bit more.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it.
So how about we do? Let's do 30 for a nice even
so
number.
Cheap. You're like, give me 2 catches.
All right. How about 35? We'll do 35.
Right, 35. That's
you're goading me into it.
That's a little more reasonable.
No, that's fine. So okay, I got 5 on Mike Williams. Catching fewer than 35 or catching more than 35 passes this year.
I'll take fewer than 35, and 35 will be a push.
Luna's making an appearance tonight. So, okay, Big Tyrell Williams, talking about his sleeper, his bust. He didn't care for Brandon Cooks. And I'm telling you, I've said it on this show before, a lot of high-stakes guys out there, some pretty successful ones, taking Brandon Cooks a lot. Who I got at the 701 in the Scott Fishbowl.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Just insane that
no kickers.
There's no kickers, no defenses.
Flex.
Yeah, and I mean, so you're basically starting 2 quarterbacks every week.
50 points per first down or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I forget what it is, but it's like 2.5 or something like that per first down. Yeah, who knows? We'll find out when the season starts. So, but Adam Fleischer from Pro Football Focus is actually drafting at the 11 spot. No, the 2 spot. Excuse me. He's at the 2 spot, and he just commented on it because I got Delaney Walker at the 6-12 and then Brandon Cooks at the 7-1. He said, your sandwich picks have been, and then he did the fire emoji twice.
Double that. That's good. Good props.
So Adam Fleischer's loving me at PFF, which I really appreciate. Do we want to officially put 5 on our Scott Fishbowl?
You know what? Let's do that. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, I got 5 on total points. Scott Fishbowl.
I'll take my team, which is actually probably not a good bet.
And I will take my team, and I got 5 on it.
Lots of action.
Lots of action, and we're completing our first hour of the show with 2 I got 5 on it. We're going to set a record for most I got 5 on it this year, I think. It's certainly a possibility.
I like betting.
So thanks to Rob Gallucci. We have another hour worth of show that we are going to do coming up here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Your emails, tweets, and more right after this. We pause for station identification right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Hour number 2 of the HSFF Hour, Eric Balkman and Dave the Dizzle Gerzak coming at you here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. You have a question about the time.
Well, according to your little thing here, it says it's.
No. That's a misprint. I forgot the seconds on that.
Oh, right on.
So
okay, whatever.
don't worry about it. We're fine.
I'll just mind my own business now.
Rob Gallucci was the person we had on in the first half of the program tonight. And it's interesting
because
because
to call the good half.
He was the analysis half. Now you get into the nonsense half. He was a guy that has no ties to the Pros versus Joes this year, and usually this time of the year we're either interviewing previous Pros versus Joes players or current ones this year, talking about strategy.
He's never made it.
Maybe he has, but we've never had him on the show specifically for that. Right. But it's just weird to have him on at a time this year when we're talking about Pros versus Joes. It's actually sneaking up on us pretty quick. We will have our first Pros versus Joes draft on Sunday, July 23rd. We'll do one on the 23rd, one on the 24th, one on the 25th, and then
it's already in my phone.
There you go. And then the following Sunday, which I believe is the 30th, 31st, and 1st, will be the final.
That's really like the kickoff to, I think, the fantasy season.
No, we can't
I know
keep.
that we've been doing.
We can't keep saying that because we've been like kicking off the fan. Hey, Dave.
NFL draft.
No. Hey, Dave. People are re-upping for their dynasty teams. The season's here. Hey, Dave. Mock drafts are out there. The season's here. Hey, Dave. And we're going down to Chicago for the NFL draft. The NFL season's here. Hey, Dave. We're broadcasting Genesis and Revelations live. The NFL season. We can't keep doing it because it's been here for forever. I mean, we're in like week 8 mode.
You know what's funny though? The season's not even close.
No,
it's really not here at all.
Like 60 plus days.
Yeah, it's
like 2 months.
It's really far away.
It's not that far away, and it is going to sneak up on us. But Pros vs. Joes is sneaking up on us. We will broadcast those live right here on blogtalkradio.com/HSFF. The first 2 hours of each of them. We will not broadcast them in their entirety. We usually get probably like 18, 19, sometimes 20 rounds we'll get in covering those each night. But that's a lot of fun. We have 36 Joes taking on 36 Pros. Each one of those teams that wins their 12-team league will win an FFPC main event entry for 2018. Valued, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, $35,000 value if you win that. There's a $36,000. I can't remember.
In that neighborhood.
In the neighborhood.
It's almost too bad that we only do it for 2 hours because I'm excellent at kicker analysis.
Well, usually we get the kicker runs on the show. Like that's usually when those kicker runs hit and then the defense runs hit. That's when we start talking about team construction, team analysis, because nobody wants to and all right, he's on the clock right now. And Justin Tucker is the pick there.
That's probably the best pick of the draft.
And now we have Stephen Gostkowski. Dave, your thoughts on that?
Oh, Balky, I thought that was a great pick. Gostkowski really makes that guy's draft.
It doesn't golf, Balky.
Well, but I mean, that's how you have to call kick. You have to, your voice totally changes.
Is that how it works?
When you're talking about kickers,
I think when kickers get taken, like the first guy to take a kicker in a DE, generally one of the smartest guys.
Not if you ask Farrell Elliott.
If it's a 6th round or 7th round, he's just a dummy. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
If it's like the 12th round, everybody's like, "Whoa, he took Tucker. He took Gostkowski." I think that's a good pick.
Well, maybe it is. I mean, we'll see. All I know is that, last year you didn't broadcast all the drafts with me, and Farrell Elliott actually sat in and broadcasted one live, and it was a lot of fun.
Disinformation.
He was not a fan of the first kicker pick. So it's entertaining. Okay, well, we have much more entertaining stuff rather than this nonsense coming up. We're going to take our first break of hour number 2 here. We're going to answer your emails, tweets, more, all in fantasy feedback coming up later on right after this break. HSFF Hour on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. I'm Eric Balkman. He's Dave Gerzak. This is the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. We've blathered on long enough. Let's actually do something worthwhile and start answering your emails.
Oh, no.
If you've got a question for Eric, Dave, or tonight's guest, send them a tweet at HSFF Hour on Twitter. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Post it in the chat room during the broadcast. Hashtag your tweet with HSFF or just smack Eric in the head. That's highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com or at HSFF Hour on Twitter.
With this new format tonight, I knew I was going to screw something up, and I have. We didn't even talk about the news. This is a hotbed of news going on right now in the NFL. Oh my gosh, you can't even keep up with it. So let's do the news, and then we'll do the emails.
So does that mean the news will actually be about teams that are pretty good for once?
We might have an email about that, about how I like to talk about
crappy
teams that always suck. Yeah.
Great. I'm glad someone's bringing this up other than just me.
No,
it's not just me that's realizing.
Yeah, the listeners are on Team Dave for sure.
Thank you. You know, I
No
appreciate
question.
it. I appreciate it.
I want to thank Football Guys, Roto World, and Rob for tonight's rundown. Terrence West projected to be the starting running back in Week 1, according to Ryan Mink of BaltimoreRavens.com. Danny Woodhead seeing some carries used mainly in the passing game. Yeah, I'm as shocked as you are to hear that. But Terrence West going to be starting the first 4 weeks, obviously because Kenneth Dixon is suspended. But what happens when Dixon comes back? Is it a committee? Does West retain the job? Does Dixon take it over? The Ravens last year, what?
I feel like this is the intro to the show Soap. Do you remember the show Soap?
Oh, yeah.
They ask all the stupid questions?
Yes.
These are all stupid questions
Yeah.
coming back.
Well, these aren't stupid questions. This is stuff that people care about. Maybe you don't.
But,
See,
you know,
the Dizzle always has, by the time Terrence West is being picked, you have all your running backs already.
Only 10, this is important for you. Only 10% of the people will get the Soap reference, but those that did, I hope they like it.
You know, I never really watched that show, and then
Neither did I.
Comedy Central, when I was like a teenager, they were re-airing it.
Right.
And I was watching it, I'm like, what is this? Because I was recognizing the actors. You know,
There's so many famous
Kathleen Robert, what's her name? Kathleen, you know, the chick from Mona, from Who's the Boss, was on it.
You know, I don't know if
Catherine Hellman.
By the way,
Catherine
I don't
Hellman.
know if the word chick is politically correct. The young lady.
Billy Crystal was on it. Richard Mulligan was on it. I mean, there was a ton of Robert Guillaume was on it. So it was a star-studded cast. So I was watching it, and my uncle came downstairs when I was at my parents' house, and he's like, "Oh, what is this, Soap? This is great." And we started watching it. I'm like, "Yeah, it actually isn't that bad."
It's pretty good. It was actually a pretty good show.
Yeah.
It's a little too close for comfort.
Monroe. The Ravens' backfield did not support one running back as a whole last year, Dave. And Woodhead.
They're trying to use 3.
And well, they might be using 3 again. Terrence West. Now, okay, here's the thing. Terrence West is going in the early 11th round. Now, you and I love to crap all over these awful running backs. But then when it comes to the draft, you're like, wow, 11th round for a starting running back. This makes a lot of sense here.
That's actually pricey for me.
You know, it's okay. What about this?
For a part-time guy who's never done it.
Yeah.
Can't catch. Won't be on the down. Won't be in their third downs. Roll gets muddied in week 5.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Here's the other situation that I would not necessarily go this way, but you certainly could if you're a believer. Doug Martin's going in the mid-7th, suspended for the first 4 games of the season. You get Terrence West in the 11th, and you have a starting running back for your, RB2 or RB3 slot covered, unless one of them gets hurt, in which case you're back where you started. But that's true of any running back. Now, you could also get Jacquizz Rodgers much later if you wanted to pair him with Doug Martin, but at least you have the clarity with Terrence West. Now, the problem with him is he's not going to catch passes, and I don't know how high his ceiling is as a starting running back.
Yeah, week 2 he's going to give you a 4-point week, and you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're not starting him, unless it's like a bye.
Week 2, that's when you're Doug Martin.
I think this is interesting. Look who's going after Terrence West right now, Jeff. James White. You could have James White instead of...
That just feels so much more refreshing. It's like having a Zima instead of like a bad malt liquor.
Giovanni Bernard. You could have Giovanni Bernard instead of Terrence West.
He'll be back in week 13 probably.
Well, hopefully.
I'm not interested in Gio.
That's interesting that you say that.
He's the opposite of the bee's knees.
What about Darren Sproles?
He's the no knees.
What about Darren Sproles or Terrence
Sproles,
West?
Yeah, I'd be more interested in Sproles. Sproles actually you can get 10 points out of Sproles every day of the week.
Yeah.
Well, mostly Sundays.
Sometimes Mondays and the occasional Thursday. Kenneth Dixon might have a bigger role on offense this year. This according to, once again, Ryan Mink of BaltimoreRavens.com. He's another guy that we're going to talk about Amir Abdullah later on. He's like the best running back they have, but he doesn't do anything the best. He doesn't do any one thing better than, he's not going to be the best pass catcher on the team. I don't know if he's the best in between the tackles guy, if he's better than Terrence West. But from an all-around standpoint, you like Kenneth Dixon. There's been a lot of people talking up Kenneth Dixon on, fantasy Twitter or whatever you want to call it lately. He's going at the 10-11 right now. What do you make of Kenneth Dixon here? Is he also a guy that you're avoiding?
Honestly, it's weird, but I probably have a little bit more interest in him than West because I do think West is just a guy and Dixon's somebody that they do like. I still am not super interested in him because Woodhead really does make a difference. I mean, being the third down back, you're not going to catch passes. So, no, I'm out. I might like Woodhead. Where's Woodhead going? Like the 8th, 9th?
Let's take a look here. We actually, I'll get to it later. 703 right now.
I mean, it's a tad pricey, but I mean,
he's going up.
But I mean, Woodhead has been a top 5 running back in PPR before. I mean, it's crazy how effective he's been in this
top
part-time role.
Top two.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's getting old. I mean, he's super old.
But he doesn't have a lot of mileage, and he doesn't take the pounding.
No, I'm totally. If I'm taking one of those Ravens running backs, I'm going to pay up and probably get Woodhead.
I think I'm going to get Woodhead on a lot of teams again this year. And it's just
that's no surprise, Mr. Wide Receiver.
Sneaky. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Oh, like not as my running back 1, for God's sake.
You might be your 2 though.
He might be my 3. I might go after running backs a little bit. In the Scott Fishbowl, I have. I guess I only have 2 running backs so far. But seriously,
what round are you guys in?
7. We're probably in the 8th. I haven't been paying attention to it the last couple of hours.
I was going to rip on you about how far behind you are, but then you were the one who said you held up the draft last night.
Yeah, I mean, I have kids.
You had sleepy.
And I'm on the turn. I can't pre-draft. I could pre-draft 1 pick. Well, how does that help anybody? Because I'm still on the clock then. You know what I mean? It
certainly doesn't help you, so why do it?
Yeah.
I agree with you. Be greedy.
I'm still, my average clock time is still only just over an hour. So I'm being pretty respectful overall. Let's be respectful to Jeremy Hill. He's going to get some carries and will remain a factor near the goal line, according to Bengals.com writer Jeff Hobson.
I'm at 26 minutes.
Congratulations. So you don't like Giovanni Bernard. We don't know when he's coming back. So for you, the Bengals backfield this year is all about Mixon and Hill. And knowing your anti-proclivity, if that's a word, for Jeremy Hill, I believe you think this backfield is all about Joe Mixon.
I'd be fixing to get Mixon, yes. But, the Mixon is not cheap. Mixon, everyone loves.
$412 right now.
It's not terribly bad, to be honest. But
I think he's been slipping a little bit.
Has he?
Yeah.
I might consider him at that point. I mean, it's not super expensive. But in dynasty drafts, oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
He was way up there. I mean,
he goes before the 101.
Yeah, he goes at 100.
Yeah, the 100.
That's crazy.
Jeremy Hill, do you have any interest in him at the 13th round?
No.
Obviously, if you have Mixon, you do.
No, I think they're trying to kick Hill to the curb.
Well, they don't. Okay, that's fine. But then if Mixon gets hurt, you already have an injured Giovanni Bernard. You can only kick so many people to the curb.
I'm not handcuffing. I'm not taking Jeremy Hill to handcuff to Mixon if I grab Mixon. I mean, I'll just take Mixon. He's like, what is he, 21, 22? Young, sprightly fella. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he's got the body of a taut preteen Swedish boy. SiriusXM NFL Radio's Ross Tucker said that Cam Newton has been encouraged to get the ball out quicker and run less often. This is a quote from Ron Rivera, reported by Ross Tucker. Newton is getting over his shoulder surgery he had this offseason. He only actually had 90 carries last year, and that could be less this year if these words hold true. Christian McCaffrey, Curtis Samuel are the brand new toys on this offense that Carolina will want to be deploying the toys. Short passes and dump offs, that's the name of the game for Newton to keep him healthy, keep him on the field. You look at Cam Newton, Dave, I think what he's done from a fantasy perspective warrants him going higher than the 905 right now in FFPC and Football Guys drafts.
Yeah, I mean, it's Cam Newton at the 905. It just seems so
905.
Seems so cheap. I mean, what was his average? So last year he finished as QB 16, is that right?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
I'm pulling it up right now, actually. He was QB 16, but he missed a little bit of time. So on a points per game basis, he was QB 14. I mean, just not that impressive. I would consider him in that range, but I'm not going crazy. He's not a 400 point quarterback. When the team and the GM and the coach and Cam himself is like, look, they want other guys to make plays. They want more people to be playmakers, not me. You have to sometimes you have to believe that they're telling the truth, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's...
So last year he finished as QB 14, QB 17 overall, but 14 on a points per game basis. And they're saying they want to use him and give him the ball less. Well, does that mean he's going to do better than QB 14? I don't think so.
He is the 8th quarterback off the board right now, Dave.
I think that's kind of pricey, to be honest with you. I think I'm off Cam, actually.
Marcus Mariota and Ben Roethlisberger both going after him. I think I'd rather have both those guys than Cam Newton. We're up against it, so we got to take a break. When we come back, this time I promise you I will answer emails, tweets, much more coming up on the High Stakes Fantasy Football right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Welcome back to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. My name is Eric Balkman. He is the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak, coming at you live on a Wednesday night. I want to thank you for tuning in. For those of you tuned in live here on blogtalkradio.com/HSFF, we certainly appreciate it. And for any of you downloading in the other avenues and Fantasy Sports Radio Network, we certainly appreciate that as well. We have a ton of emails and tweets and much more to get to. I will actually... we could not do the show this Friday because I'm actually going to the Rock USA concert that I have attended over the past several years in beautiful Northeast Wisconsin. Actually, our friend Kurt will be there. Of course, Kurt, many of you high-stakes players know him. A two-packer will be there as well. And the real Leroy, rumored to make an appearance. So plenty of actually the FFPC high-stakes players will be well represented at the festival. I am looking forward to it. Not as much as I'm looking forward to answering your emails. The last thing I want to get to before we get to that is this little blurb on Adrian Peterson. I don't know, and I kind of buried this because this is something he said, and you know what I feel. When I feel almost nothing when it comes to whatever players are saying about themselves, their goals, their how good their injuries are, how good their health is. Take it with a grain of salt when the player says it. But Adrian Peterson this week said he wants to surpass 500 receiving yards. This is according to a report on the aptly named Bleacher Report. Peterson's best year receiving the ball was 436 yards back in 2009. That was when Brett Favre was his quarterback. He thinks actually the tonic will be getting to work with Drew Brees, getting him to set a new personal best. Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara already probably better pass catchers than Adrian Peterson. Sean Payton says that he doesn't think Peterson's lost a step, and Peterson climbing up draft boards a little bit. Dave, okay, I'll bring this up. On Twitter, Roto World, I think it was Roto World Football, tweeted out this blurb, and then Jack Hahn, of course you can follow at Jack Hahn Law.
He's a great. Jack Hahn is a very sarcastic, great cynic. He's great. So I can't wait to hear what he said.
Yeah, he. So it said, the blurb was Peterson projects 500 receiving yards this year, and then Jack Hahn tweeted, "I'm also projecting $1 billion in sales or $1 billion in revenue," and then it was like hashtag same probability of happening or something like that. It was very funny. It actually got a lot of likes. So Adrian Peterson, you're not buying this 500 yards receiving nonsense.
I mean, I'm not only not buying it. I mean, 500 yards of rushing. I'd be actually. I don't.
Wow, you are down on Peterson, my friend.
I am. Why is he good? What's good about it? What is good about him?
He's Adrian Peterson. He may or may not be a cyborg. He's not.
Okay. First of all, what did he average? Like 2.8 yards a carry.
I don't know what it was, but I can tell you this: that the last offensive line he ran behind was god awful. It was one of the worst in the last few years in the NFL.
And he made it that way.
Did he make it that way? Oh, because of what he was making in his contract?
He was terrible. I'm just saying he's insanely old. He's like, if he does as well as Eddie George in his terrible last year, I mean, I'd be surprised. I mean, I have no interest at all in him in the 6th round. I'm not taking him. Forget it.
Mark Ingram?
You have Ingram to worry about. Yeah. Ingram is much better player.
So he's going 10 picks before Peterson in the 6th round.
Well, good. Is
that a spot where you look at Ingram? Or?
Yeah, I would consider Ingram for sure. I think Peterson is not going to. I don't think he's going to be much of a fantasy factor, to be honest. And Kamara, I don't think he probably will be that much. But he's supposedly this third down.
Let me paint a picture for you, Dave.
Paint away.
Adrian Peterson.
Paint it with a switch, Bulky.
Adrian Peterson, no strangers to the trainer's table. Mark Ingram, also no stranger to the trainer's table. What happens if both those guys go down? You get Alvin Kamara in the 13th round. All of a sudden, he's a starting running back for an elite offense that is going to be in a ton of shootouts.
You're pulling a double handcuff theory?
No, not a double handcuff theory. I'm just saying, like you could take. No. You could take Kamara in the 13th round and see what happens, and you could just stick on your roster, and he could be the type of guy that you pull out week 14 if there is a situation where even just one of those backs is hurt. Kamara could really be great.
Well, and plus you can actually use Kamara if he gets the third down work as is somewhat projected. He might actually be putting up 5, 10, 15-point weeks for you on occasion, and you might actually be able to use him during the buys.
Yeah.
I don't mind Kamara that much. I would actually, if I took Ingram, I would actually consider Kamara as maybe an adjunct a little bit, not as a true handcuff, but
what does that mean? An adjunct, but not a true handcuff?
Yeah, just like as an extra guy that maybe he ends up being a handcuff. Maybe he's a guy that I just use once. Maybe I'll use them both in 1 week.
God.
Well, if
that
I
would be
if I have a team like you put together a lot of times, I might have to do that.
That'd actually be the strategy. That'd be the draft strategy that we would go into it. Let's get into emails. Hello, Balky and Dave. Is Amir Abdullah a man without a role? Riddick catches the passes there, and Zenner in Washington can handle the goal line stuff. I'm a little confused as to what is making him drafted so high. Thanks, guys. That is Paul in Houston, Texas. I thought I had the ADP written down for him. I do not. Ooh. Clearly doing Amir Abdullah. Going at the 608 right now. So he's in that, that 6th-round mess with Ingram and Peterson. There's a ton of running backs.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have a duel than Peterson.
So, but what's he going to do? I mean, because Riddick is going to be the guy to own.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. I didn't know that. So Riddick is the player to own. So you don't want to own Abdullah at all. You want to own Riddick. All right, let me just write this down.
Yeah,
so
Riddick
was going the 4th round?
You would, well, I'm sure. Hold on. He's actually going at the 808.
Oh, so he's going later, but he's the guy to own.
I am shocked. That's who I'd want to own. That's all right. Let's put 5 on it.
Fine, I'll take Amir Abdullah. It's going to be better than Theo Riddick and score more PPR points.
Okay, and you know what? I'm giving you 2 rounds of value here, so you remember that.
You know what? I'll lay 10 points because I'm getting 2.
Oh, 10 points. Just so gracious of you to give me 10 points.
Very good. You're an excellent actor. Do you want 20 points? What do you want?
Let's do 15. Okay, so I have Theo Riddick plus 15 PPR FFPC points this season. You have...
I have Amir Abdullah minus 15. Are you going to tell people what this is about that are not current normal listeners?
Yeah, it's basically we make all these wagers throughout the season, and each wager represents $5, and at the end of the season we total it up. This is the 6th year we've been doing it. You are up 3 seasons to 2, essentially. And I threw it away last season because I had it locked up. And I said, it'd probably behoove you to make a couple more bets. We made 2 more bets. You won both and beat me by 1 instead of me beating you by 1, which was extraordinarily frustrating.
Now, isn't there a controversy, though, a little bit going into this season?
You want to tell people about it?
There's a Marshawn Lynch controversy. Going into the seasons, I'm trying to remember exactly how it works.
It was whether he comes back to the NFL.
I know the bet is whether he comes back to the NFL, but you pushed it into this season. Is that how it worked, or did you?
I didn't push it anywhere. We never set a time frame on it.
So the bet is unresolved. Right?
Even though the legal opinion from the aforementioned Jack Hahn,
he's an attorney,
he sided with you on this. Which, by the way, he has no jurisdiction on this show.
So what was his ruling? He said that he should have gotten the
he didn't really what's the thing
he didn't stomp the gavel?
No, not the gavel. What's the thing that you when the Supreme Court rules on something, they have the big paper they publish. It's the judge's.
Oh yeah, like the judge's opinion, or it's not an opinion,
but it's called something.
Yeah, there's a better.
So he didn't provide one of those. He just basically said that he sided with you.
The juris writ, which is totally not it, but
yeah, I don't know what it is.
So what is so where are we at on that bet right now, by the way?
So, all Lynch has to do is play it down in the NFL, and
so then you get the W for this year.
For this year, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not previous.
Oh, it's the opinion or dissent. Majority opinion?
Dissent, I think, is what I'm... Well, no.
It wouldn't be the affirmation?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So,
whatever.
You like Abdullah in the 6th.
Oh, yeah.
Is what we're coming down to.
Yeah, you know what? I do like Abdullah. The team likes him. They were all high on him going into last season, then he got hurt early on. He's actually a really talented back. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's got amazing...
You like him quite a bit for Dynasty.
I do. Actually, yeah. He has amazing agility. Amazing agility.
Yeah.
I know you love the word amazing, too.
Yeah,
amazing agility.
So terrible. It is the most overused word
is amazing.
In the English language. Hey, like something and can't think of a good modifier? Use the word amazing. The word amazing. Everyone else uses it. You might as well, too. For those of you who are lazy and can't think of anything else. Dear Marvin and Reggie, haven't heard you talk a whole lot about T.Y. Hilton in a while. How about a would you rather with him? That is Joe in Reno,
I gotta check something quick.
What are you talking about?
I gotta look at something before we do this thing.
I see what you're Googling there.
Did Andrew Luck, has he thrown a pass yet?
Okay, well while you do that, Rob's gonna play this.
Would you rather get a massage from a man or surgery from a female doctor?
Would you have sex with Cleveland if it meant you could have sex with Angelina Jolie?
Who would you rather do? What would you guys rather be? Who would you rather start a small business with?
Who would you rather have sex with?
Do you want breakfast or would you rather chew on your own ass as usual?
an R-rated little blurb here.
Yeah, a little bit. So T.Y.
PG-13.
Yeah, PG-13, and that's fine. T.Y. Hilton. Let's do T.Y. Hilton. Would you rather have T.Y. Hilton or Jordy Nelson?
Jordy.
I agree. T.Y. Hilton or Michael Thomas?
Ugh, I guess I'll take Michael Thomas.
I think I'm going to say Hilton there, but it's close. T.Y. Hilton or Amari Cooper?
I'll take Hilton.
I agree. T.Y. Hilton or Des Bryant?
I'm taking Dez, buddy.
Oh, I would take T.Y. Hilton.
I like me some
I'll
Dez.
put 5 on that.
Fine, I'll take Dez.
Hilton. Okay.
What's with you? I mean, what do you got? You got a mortgage to pay or something like that? You guys
hold on.
refinance? You got kids going to private school? You guys need some extra money?
Yeah, I do.
Should I borrow you? It's like actually, I think.
No, I'm not going to borrow anything from you. I'm winning it right now.
I actually owe Bulky about $250 right now.
Nobody cares. Des Bryant or and it's $270. Des Bryant or T.Y. Hilton straight up, right?
Yeah, Des Bryant. I'll take Des.
No, but I'm saying like for our wager.
Yeah.
Okay, straight up. All right, Rob, don't play it. We've played it enough tonight. My God, too many bets.
270. All right, I'm going to get that paid back.
T.Y. Hilton or...
That was from the Belmont Stakes, by the way. I misgambled that day.
Yeah. T.Y. Hilton or Doug Baldwin?
Ugh. I'll take Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it.
Andrew Luck has not thrown yet still this offseason, so...
Yeah.
Scott Tolzien,
so frustrating.
Backup Scott Tolzien was the starter if Andrew Luck cannot play.
Oof.
I'm pretty sure...
He was great for the Badgers.
Sure.
Remember that.
What do you have, 12 touchdowns? I'm pretty sure...
in his career, maybe.
I'm pretty sure Luck will actually be back in time. I just don't like quarterbacks coming off an injury where it's mid-July and they're still not tossing the ball around at all.
Well, we're going to toss the proverbial ball around and answer some more of your emails. We do have to take a break. You are listening to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. The penultimate segment of our show tonight here, Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak, High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Damn glad to have you right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. We're answering your emails, and I want to get to one of my favorite emails here, Dave. Their favorite email types, the blind resumes. People always like to send these in.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, and I like reading.
I must have missed the show.
No, we've done like 2 or 3 of these already this season. And it's great because I don't have to figure this out. You have to figure this out. I read them. Okay, so blind resume.
This reminds me of my daughter. She has these little puzzles that she gives my wife and our other daughter and me, and I'm always the dummy who gets them last.
Yeah. Well,
today was SHI, and then there was a gap, and then the P, and I'm like guessing split ship, and it was spaceship.
Oh, you're talking about like these, like a word puzzle. A rebus, I think is what they're called.
She has some stupid name for them, too.
Well, whatever. Aaron in Albuquerque, New Mexico, put this one together. Blind resume. Despite only catching 1 touchdown last year, I still racked up more than 60 catches and 700 yards to finish as the 14th tight end. Apparently, FFPC drafters see me not catching more touchdowns this year since I am being drafted as the 13th tight end off the board in the 8th round. Who am I? Good luck. That is Aaron in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Aaron, thank you so much for the blind resume. Any guesses here, Dave? This is interesting because this is a guy who had 60 balls, 700 yards. We all know how bad the tight ends were last year.
I know. I'm pretty sure we talked about this player. I'm going to guess. I'm guessing Jack Doyle.
It is not Jack Doyle. But this guy is a guy we have talked about on the show tonight. And he's a guy who only caught 1 touchdown last year.
Nice.
You catch, he amps up 30 more points, 5 more touchdowns. All of a sudden you're looking at like, oh my gosh, why is this guy not being drafted until tight end 13? It's insane.
Man, I'm trying to think about who we talked about tonight. That's really...
We haven't had too many tight ends. I will say it is an NFC player, NFC North tight end.
Yeah, I'm trying to cheat, and I'm still screwing up.
It's an NFC North tight end not named Zach Miller, Martellus Bennett, or Kyle Rudolph.
Just give me who is it?
It's the starting tight end for the Detroit Football Lions, a guy that you like to break out, Eric Ebron. It's interesting. 1 touchdown last year.
It's just like spaceship. I'm terrible.
Well, it's not. No, because normally you get these right away. But Ebron, you've already talked about. You like him as a potential breakout.
I do like him, actually. I think that, I've harped on his bad, hands.
Right.
They're still probably pretty bad.
Yeah.
But, the team likes him. They let Bolden go. Bolden's a great player, great hands, actually. But
22 red zone targets last year, gone.
Yeah, I really think that he's going to be the guy that's going to get those.
They bring in these 2 tight ends that are like blockers to sort of free up Ebron to do what he is best at, and that's being like not an inline tight end, but a guy that can split out, make some plays down the seam.
And let's talk about Marvin Jones a little bit. Marvin Jones was a poser going into last year.
Okay.
He played last year.
Yeah.
And his poserness was proven.
Yeah.
He sucks. He's not a very good player.
He was great at the start.
He had one game, 10 for 200.
Right.
He sucks.
Right.
So you have Golden Tate, who started out poorly.
Yeah.
Marvin Jones, who's a poser and sucks, but he's still somehow starting. So then you have Ebron. So who are your talented players? You have Abdullah in the backfield.
Can I tell you who the talented player is?
Yes, Theo Riddick.
Theo Riddick, baby.
You're a great player, Theo Riddick.
Yeah. That's the man. All right, I'm gonna
20% of the catches.
I'm gonna give you
20% of the time out there in the snaps. I don't think so.
I am going to give you a chance to redeem yourself here. Another blind resume.
Right.
Back-to-back BRs. Okay,
Right.
This is from Ed in Santa Monica, California. Blind resume time. He is only one of 3 players in NFL history with 5 straight years of at least 90 catches and 1,000 yards receiving, finished as the 16th best receiver on a points-per-game basis last year. Despite still only being 29 years old, he is slipping to the mid-third round right now. Who is he?
So you're saying 90 receptions.
There's been 3 players in NFL history who've had 5 consecutive years of getting at least 90 catches and 1,000 yards. He's one of the 3. Last year, points per game basis, he was the 6th.
How many years in a row?
5.
5, wow.
16th best wide receiver, points per game last year, and he's only going to be 29. He turns 30 on Christmas or something like that. I know it's like Christmas season that he turns 30. Yeah. He's 29 right now. Mid-third round receiver. We have not mentioned him at all on the show
Jerry
tonight.
Thomas.
That is 100% correct.
Boom.
Nice job. I knew you'd redeem yourself. You can.
Jerry Thomas is undervalued. It's amazing.
Yeah, and we've been trumpeting this.
Such a good player
on the show quite a bit. Hi, Dave and Eric. Since Pat Shurmur has always seemed to favor one back rather than a committee in his career, what are your thoughts on drafting Dalvin Cook this year and ignoring Latavius Murray unless you believe in handcuffing TIA? That is George in Anchorage, Alaska.
What was the question again? That was kind of a big.
His thoughts that
George's sentence structure was a little bit not that good.
Whatever. Dalvin Cook this year.
Yeah.
He's playing for an offensive coordinator that historically has preferred a feature back rather than a committee.
Good.
Minnesota traded up for Cook. Latavius Murray was signed before they drafted Cook. Cook
Murray he's been persona non grata.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And
but,
even he's admitted it.
I should look this up right now.
Jerick McKinnon's been a bust. Still is. I love Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook at the 603. Now, bear in mind, he's running behind a pretty bad offensive line.
This is like Mad Magazine where they tell you the price goes up every year, but they always say $2 cheap. This is Dalvin Cook. He's cheap. I took him also in the Scott Fish Bowl.
I was going to ask you about that.
Desperation.
You know what's interesting? The Scott Fish Bowl, I took Christian McCaffrey, a guy that you've been trumpeting, as your guy.
I also didn't get Tyreek Hill either, by the way.
Okay, well, that's fine, but he's still available in ours, by the way. Dalvin Cook, you took, who I was not so much this offseason, but this whole senior year or junior year, I was waiting for him to get to the NFL because I thought he was going to be great. That's interesting that apparently we're rubbing off on each other.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know if you could say that on the radio, but I just did.
Hey, at least you didn't touch me tonight on the show.
Yeah, well, it's still plenty of show left.
So Dalvin Cook, that ESPN Sports Science came out. The fact that I feel like I'm growing a little bit as a whether it's an announcer or a player or whatever, but that I was really disappointed in his comment. It was god awful. It was terrible.
Yeah.
But I've seen players who have had bad combines that have ended up being productive, good NFL players. Like Shady McCoy had a bad combine. Whatever it was. But, the sports science, they talk about how productive he was on the field. That actually mattered to me, and it does still matter to me. And I think Dalvin Cook, and I looked at his tape, it's really, really impressive. And, guys like, Matt Waldman, who I do respect, they like him. So I'm on board.
Okay. Well, welcome to the club. I'm just not on board with that offensive line. That's the part that scares me.
But if it's really bad, it's like regression to your regression to the mean thing.
Yeah.
It's got to get a little bit better, right?
Florida State, I will say Florida State in college, their offensive line was never anything to write home about. They had their big guy, Rod Johnson, came out early this year, and then he
he's currently a porn star.
No, that's funny. He was like a 5th round pick. You know what I mean? And he was the good guy. So I don't know. Dear
Gill and Rod Johnson.
Dear HSFF henchmen, Emmanuel Sanders is a good football player who has eaten fast food his entire career. Now that he's given
I love the dieting news.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Now that he's given it up, could he be a massive breakout candidate in 2017? Thanks in advance. That's Jeff in Ozark, Alabama. Emmanuel Sanders. We talked a lot about 6th-round players tonight, Dave. He's another one going at the 601 right now. Okay, seriously, though, fast food, whatever. But the fact that he can rid his body of all this, and he's been doing it.
Toxins.
Yeah, the toxins. He's been eating this way his whole career. Now, all of a sudden, he gets rid of that. I guess the main question...
His body fat went from 9% to 8.5%.
I don't know. Adrian Peterson's is at 6, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that before.
I believe it.
So
T.O.'s was about 4% when he sucked, too.
He actually had a negative body fat.
He actually looked like
he did.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of people say, well, who's the quarterback there? Well, Trevor Siemian wasn't great last year, and Thomas and Sanders were both great.
Actually pretty impressive.
They were very good. I shouldn't say great.
I mean, when you look at these two guys being drafted in the 3rd round and the 6th round, and then you look at the Denver quarterback, whomever that's going to be, being drafted, in the infinite rounds?
Yeah, super late. You can actually get one of those guys super cheap in the Scott Fish Bowl as your number 3 quarterback.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not getting them cheap because these morons are drafting them all early.
All right, Tony in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Did we have an answer to the question, or what was there?
Oh, you do like Sanders at the 601.
Yeah, actually,
he makes a lot of sense there for me.
I kind of do like Sanders. Yeah, I like his skill set a lot. He's a good guy.
Pick one, you dancing monkeys: Bilal Powell or Danny Woodhead. Seriously though, thanks if you answer this on the show. Tony in Pittsburgh, thank you for the email. You have a choice: Powell, Woodhead. Which one are you going with?
I'm taking. Oh man, the Jets are so terrible.
They are.
I love Powell.
Yep.
All right, I'm taking Powell.
I agree, and just the fact that I'm not a believer in Matt Forte. I think that Powell is going to do what he did the second half of the season last year, and it's just going to continue. So that's where I stand.
I just worry about the games where they lose 37-3 and Hackenberg throws for 71 yards. How many receiving yards can Powell have?
Doesn't matter.
When Hackenberg throws for 74?
Let me tell you why it doesn't matter. Because he could throw for 71 yards. It's going to be on 18 completions.
What do you think Noon was going to do that?
No,
Bulky?
well, that's the thing. That's what I'd be worried about.
3 for 6.
They had bad quarterback play last year. They lost by 5 touchdowns last year. Powell still put up good numbers. I'm not concerned about him.
I'm a bit concerned.
Okay. Mike in Price, Utah. I can't believe I'm asking about this guy, but who better to ask than the guys over at the TE-loving FFPC? What do you make of the lack of weapons in San Francisco and the fact that George Kittle seems to get a new biggest fan with that coaching staff every week? That is Mike in Price, Utah. George Kittle, Dave, I can't believe this myself, but he's actually being drafted at the 18-12 right now in FFPC drafts. Your thoughts on George Kittle as a potential sleeping giant as your tight end 3?
It's interesting. Vance McDonald has been such an underperformer. And I look at the depth charts, and it's Vance McDonald 1, George Kittle 2. And
they want to cut Vance McDonald. They don't want to.
Yeah,
the previous.
What was the contract? That was the Jim
McElvain
deal, right?
Yeah.
7 years, 5 years, $35 million.
It was a ton of money, and it was a long contract, and the people that did that have been sacked.
I in anticipation of the question as you were asking it, I typed in George Kittle in Google News. And these are the titles: an impressive tight end with the WWE mindset. And then I love this one from Numberfire. George Kittle dazzled in 49ers OTA.
Oh, look at that next one. Future HOF. Aaron Rodgers. What is that? Des Bryant. George Kittle. Interesting.
I think it's a little bit of. I think to your possible point, it's a little bit of off-season hype.
It is a little bit.
But whatever. I mean, at that point, 19th round, who cares?
Who cares indeed? Well, we care about you, and we have a couple more emails to answer for you right here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. This is our final break right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak. This seems like a marathon of broadcasting tonight. This is a 2-hour show that we're doing, Dave. And, I mean, it's not that much more content that we're normally doing on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. It just seems like more tonight.
Well, I mean, we have the commercials for all the good mortgage companies that are out there.
Of course, the Fantasy Sports Radio news updates.
You snore a lot, the snore fixer-uppers.
Yeah.
Those guys.
The FFPC commercials that are on national radio.
Support the advertisers.
Yeah, well.
They're what make us, they don't really do much for us.
They do a lot behind the scenes. People. And sometimes there are other people.
I'll help you out, too.
Craig in Piscataway, New Jersey, greetings and salutations. I know that Samaje Perine is going to see his ADP go down after the beat writers and coaches seem to think he's quite a ways behind Rob Kelly. My question is, do you think that's justified, and is Rob Kelly now a sneaky buy? Love your show. That is Craig in Piscataway, New Jersey. Thank you for the email, Craig. Samaje Perine going at the 8-10, Rob Kelly at the 10-11. I thought initially, and I'm not a big Perine guy, but I thought initially that those two ADPs were going to drift further apart, and they're actually coming closer together now. The beat writers saying that, or a beat writer for the Washington Redskins said that Perine's quite a ways behind Rob Kelly. The coaches, Matt Cavanaugh, the offensive coordinator there, seems to agree with that. I was never on Perine from the beginning, and I'm, even less about him now.
It's funny because I was actually interested in drafting Perine in all my dynasty leagues. I'm in 8 of them, and I got him in how many? 0. Not a single one.
Yeah, you were interested in drafting him.
I was looking at him. I'm like, you know what? There was a lot of hype on this guy, and luckily everyone else they overhyped me. So thank you very much for all that. Appreciate it. I don't know Rob Kelly at all, and not that anyone cares of who I own. But I feel like the ADP is inverted here. I think that it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
I think Kelly should be the one drafted earlier, and I do think it's going to end up flipping as time goes on. So this is why. This is why you draft in like these football guys leagues now, right?
Oh, I'm totally with it.
This is why you get in there now.
Okay,
before camp opens.
First of all, there's still insane value to be had in football guys drafts right now. But like when it opened in early June, I couldn't believe where some of these guys are going, and it still isn't corrected.
Absolutely.
So there's still a lot of crazy stuff going on.
I don't know why you're spending time with your family
or listening to this show. Stop listening to this show right now. MyFFPC.com. Sign up for Football Guys Draft and just crush it. We've given you all we can.
Stop sipping iced tea on the porch.
We've given you the keys. Now you just need to turn the ignition.
It's too humid out. Just go inside.
Final email. Hi, Bulky. I pretty much know Dave's take on this, but do you like Moncrief in a contract year after dropping 10 pounds of weight and hearing his new GM fall all over himself talking about how great he is? Kevin in Athens, Georgia. Pains me to say this, but Dante Moncrief going at the 7-10 in drafts, that might be a sneaky good value. Now, the problem is he's probably being depressed because Luck, we don't know what's going on with them. If Luck starts throwing again, that ADP probably crops back up. But right now, he's an interesting risk to take.
At the 7-10 in redraft, I'm on board, actually. I have crapped all over Moncrief. I don't like him in Dynasty, and I dealt him away everywhere I could.
Yeah.
Into the 7th round, all you need out of that is you need Luck to be healthy, which is, whatever. And then you need Moncrief to actually produce. I mean, he's got the size, speed, and, so-called talent. He's got to stay healthy. He's got a shot.
He does have a shot.
At that point, why not take a shot at it?
Listen, there's more reasons to draft him there, and my good friend in Hong Kong, Ray Chung, would agree, as I know he's a
I love Ray. He's so great.
Dante Moncrief guy. So it makes a lot of sense in the late 7th. There's a lot of good. There's a hotbed of fantasy value there for receivers, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds. That's going to do it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to Rob Gallucci. Thanks to Dave Gerzak for doing the show on a Wednesday night. Thank you. The FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and of course all of you make your Planet Hollywood reservations. Sign up for the main event draft with Satellites, Best Balls, Dynasty, and the Football Guys Players Championship. Next week, Friday, main event, FFPC League Champ, Pros vs. Joe's drafter, Jeff Howell, Scott Engel, the Fantasy HOF Hour is up next on Fantasy Year Weekend. Starts
this
now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com that was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Him again, the sound the engine in is like a bird. You see fireworks and Corvette tires skirt the boulevard. I know how you work, I know just who you are. See, use a bitch, your hormones probably switch inside your DNA.
This is something that'll never make the air, but I feel like we could still keep doing these little vignettes we've been doing at the end.
Just for ourselves. Does
that make sense?
Sure.
Is this a record for most? I got 5 on it in one show.
I think it is like 4.
I can't believe it.
Nuts,
I'm going to have to take a second mortgage out of my house now.
They're all losers. Yours are all losers.
Technically, not a second mortgage. It'd be like a 6th mortgage at this point. But, yeah, well, take it easy on me this season, NFL.